You're listening to Funny Peculiar with Jeff Downs.
Welcome to another episode of Funny Peculiar Podcast. And this week, this is my very first guest recommends a guest, because at the end of each episode, I'm always asking my guest, who should I have on? And at last, I have the very first chain that is linking. This is from episode 14 with Jinx Monster, and she has recommended the very fabulous Arielle Firecracker. Hello, Arielle.
Hi.
This is it. It's happening. It's actually bloody worked. After 14 pissing episodes, I've managed to link. I've actually got the Funny Peculiar Podcast, I think. So how are you?
I'm very well, thank you very much.
Thank you for coming on the show. And as I said, it was linked by Jinx, and Jinx is a freak show performer. She does lots of different stuff, but she highly recommended you, I think, because you're a fire artist. Now, I'll just go quickly through what you're a burlesque dancer, you're also a snake charmer, we're going to get into that, and you're a fire artist. Now, did you teach Jinx how to eat fire, breathe fire, or have some sort of connection?
No, Jinx has been doing it a lot longer than me.
Right.
I'll have to stop. Actually, who inspired me. So basically, Jinx has been performing with the Alternative Fashion Fest for about 3 years. And I'm actually the operations director of the Alternative Fashion Fest that she performs at.
Right. Sorry, say that again. The Alternative...
The Fashion Fest.
Fashion Fest.
So,
okay, what's that about?
Yeah. So it's an anti-bullying, social inclusion and diversity organisation. So we primarily go around schools and we promote all of them issues to primary and high school children. We also go to colleges as well, but we also do big shows as well. So twice a year in the summer and once in the winter, we have a big show, and it's all our performers come together, and we have a great big 2 fingers up to the fashion industry for not representing virtually every single person you've ever met in the street.
Yeah.
We have fire performers, angle grinders, which is where Jinx Monster comes in.
Right. Brilliant.
Snakes, burlesque performers, all kinds of fashions, and we have as many different people from all walks of life on the stage, and we just have a big loving.
Brilliant. And that's basically to get, because yes, the fashion industry is horrendously regulated, and it just has the same sort of skinny girls, doesn't it? And there's weight issues going on. It's a mess, isn't it? So
Jane Bellis, who started the whole organisation, has worked in the industry for 20 years, well, over 20 years now, and so that's what she was inspired by. But it's evolved into sort of so much more than that. In terms of, it's not just the fashion industry now; it's everywhere.
Who was that? Just repeat the name again.
Jane Bellis. Jane Bellis.
Okay, and she was the one that's kicked off this movement.
It's her baby.
Right,
yeah, it
right.
is. Me and Jinx are behind her. We're wingmen.
That's well, fantastic. That's brilliant. And then you're again, and all the interviews I'm doing now, and even though you're burlesque, everybody seems to have their own style and kind of burlesque, and you're very much, you're burlesque, but you do snake charming, you do the fire, you're fire artist as well. So do you combine all of those together, or is it sometimes separate?
Sometimes. So what at the moment I'm trying to do is I'm trying to hit a few different genres of burlesque. So I have a little bit of classic in there. And I have a little bit of, so classic is very sort of de Cervantes, very, very lots of sparkles, lots of nice walks, very glamorous.
Yeah.
And then I have a bit of bump and grind, which is a bit more 60s style, 50s and 60s. So it's a bit more what people think of when they think of sort of vintage burlesque. And it's a little bit more raunchy, but it's still sort of very cheeky and very vintage.
Yeah.
And then I do a genre called neo-burlesque, which is basically much more modern, so much more modern music. And that's when I tend to bring fire and snakes in. Not at the same time.
I was going to say, yes. So again, it's open to interpretation. But let's just go back, because when did you first, and it's remarkable that a lot of performers I speak to tends to be, they saw an ad in a paper or something online that they saw. How did you get into burlesque? What were you doing before, and what was the trigger for you?
Wow. It was an accident.
Right.
So with being the operations director of the Alt Fashion Fest, we organise shows in lots of different places. And we were doing a small show at the Great British Tattoo Convention in London, Alexandra Palace, and we had a team of about 15. So this is a non-profit organisation, so we don't make money. We never charged fees or any of this thing. So we had 15 people that Jane Bellis privately funded to travel to London and accommodation, all of this. And in this one specific routine, which was vintage, we had 4 models. Jinx was one of the models, a burlesque performer, me, and one other person. And our burlesque performer dropped out last minute. She had really ill health and couldn't be there.
Right.
So we looked at our really small cast. We looked at all our options. And the best option was basically I run to Ann Summers, buy some tassels, and take the burlesque performer's place. And that's exactly what I did in front of 4,000 people.
No way. You
Yep.
got a baptism of fire. And you just, so you ran to Ann Summers, got yourself some tassels, grabbed some under whatever, and what were you thinking as you were running to the shop and coming back? What was going through your head?
There was an element of what the fuck, because my in-laws were actually going to be in the audience as well.
No way. Right. Okay.
Yeah. Yeah.
So just a bit more pressure.
Just a little bit, and as well, Jane and her family were there as well, so her husband. So I had like a lot of people who knew me personally were going to be there. So the pressure was on. It was only a small segment, which was helpful. And I luckily had someone on stage with me, which was a big help as well. But
Right,
yeah,
okay.
it was tough.
And what was the music? Did you have to go with whatever music they were using, or?
Pretty much, yeah, because it was a specific routine. So it was a vintage fashion walk. So it was all very 50s and very vintage fashion. And then all of a sudden I kind of break formation and turn into a burlesque.
Right.
And so the music was Muse Feel Good, which is a very used piece of music for burlesque, and it actually works really well. It kind of just flows very nicely.
Right, and that was you sold. It was, and you got to the end, and you were like, "I've done it, but I can do more of this."
No, I walked away and went, "That was nice. Thanks, everyone. Bye bye." And it was a few weeks later. I went to see the Jungle Book, the new Jungle Book, the live action one.
Oh yeah.
At this point, I had my husband, I had all of the Alternative Fashion Fest people, I had all my friends going, "You have to do this." I was like, I'm okay. I'm all right. I've done it. I'll see. I'll think about it. And then I went to see this movie, and at the very end, Scarlett Johansson gets on stage, ends it with the "Trust in Me" song from the original Jungle Book, but she sings it ever so sexy. And because it's the snake song,
Right.
I just kind of went, "That's my song."
And so some burlesque, you have a signature song, so that became your signature tune.
It did it initially, but I dropped it after 2 acts. I decided it wasn't working for me. But because of my debut act was to Trust in Me with a snake in a very glamorous dress, I got a lot of note very quickly because I all of a sudden was this burlesque with a snake, which is not seen an awful lot.
Right.
So I made a big stamp pretty quickly.
Yeah, I bet. And just before we get into the burlesque side, so you were part of this alternative fashion festival going on. And what were you doing before that? And was this? I mean, how did you get involved with the alternative fashion festival? Because that sounds quite a big movement.
It was. I was. It's even weirder. I was a designer, so I had my own vintage dress shop, which is kind of how all the vintage fashion and why they kind of selected me for kind of the burlesque.
Sure, yeah.
So I was already. I had a vintage dress shop already in town, in Liverpool city centre, and I was the first designer of the first show. So I was at the first show, and I was like, these guys are awesome. And then by the next show, I was helping out a little bit more, and by the third show, I'd kind of already poked Jane on the shoulder and went, "I think I can help you," because at this point she was doing it all on her own.
Right.
I was like, I think I can help you. I think I've got some skills that you might be able to utilize. So would you like a hand? To which Jane kind of agreed to almost instantly. And then we instantly became like sisters, and I kind of got involved that way. And then bit by bit, I got more involved with the show, and I kind of closed my shop to do it pretty much all the time.
Really? So, and what was the name of your shop? What was it called in Liverpool? Do you remember?
It was called Lindy's Vintage Boutique.
Ah, right. Okay.
So Lindy is my nickname, my muggle nickname.
Okay. And is that not to do with the Lindy Hop? Is that a sort of connection there?
because my nickname Lindy has been there for a while because I had a love of vintage, and so
Right.
the burlesque thing was a very obvious choice for me after that, with
Sure.
hindsight.
And
And
what?
so Lindy was the name that my husband gave to me because of my love of vintage.
Of course, brilliant. And what got you into vintage? What was it? Was it a particular film you saw? Was it a particular actress? When you sort of, what was the click
I don't
moment?
know. It just kind
It
of
just was
um,
something you liked.
I've always wore a lot of dress. I'm a very peculiar person, so I do bodybuilding for fun, and then I'll put on
Right.
a pretty dress and like a petticoat and red lipstick in the evening just because. I've just always really liked the style. I've just
It's just
yeah, I just particularly
appeals to you.
1950s.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's just always I just love it.
It's a
It's
great look.
beautiful.
I love it as well. It's
It
very,
is. It's great.
it's very much of that, and that especially the 50s was that sort of
Yeah.
nipped waist of the sort of the flared skirts and the hair.
I think
And
it's because it works well with me. So it worked well with, I found it suited me very well, and I wore it well.
yeah,
So
yeah.
it just became my adopted style for a while.
And you do bodybuilding for fun as well. So that was just again
Just because
another something you just like to sort of work out a bit as well.
I'm clearly not all there. I clearly like to just be like super challenging to myself at all opportunities. Yeah, so I competed last year as well as doing everything else. Yeah.
Really, you compete at bodybuilding as well.
Yeah.
Wow, wow. And is that the shows? So for people that don't know, and I think we've expressed quite a few things with the vintage, but with bodybuilding, that's when you do the poses, is it? So you go into
Poses, the tan,
yeah,
yeah. Sparkly bikinis. I'm obviously just attracted to anything sparkly.
sparkly. Why
Um,
not?
so, but it all kind of works because it is all a performance. So, you know, I found it actually really helped my burlesque side, and my burlesque side really helped my bodybuilding side because I was so used to stage. So the first time I went on stage bodybuilding, I was just like, yeah, this is fine. There's a picture of me backstage. I'm on a lineup of all these girls terrified about to go on stage because they put so much into because it's hard. It's really hard work, and you do put your life goes into it. And they're so serious, and there's a big stage, and I've got the biggest, cheesiest grin because I'm like, this is the fun bit. Cheer up. This is the bit where you've worked for. This is playtime now.
Well, yeah.
And they're just like, oh my God, I've never been on stage in my life. And I'm like, really? Oh, oops.
Well, because yeah, you have been working to this, and it's like it's the one moment you think they. So you were absolutely, completely relaxed while everybody else was nervous backstage.
Pretty much. Yeah, I just enjoyed it. My trainer was looking at me going, what is wrong with you? I was like, this is great. I'm having so much fun.
And do
Yeah,
you go?
I
And
don't care.
is it a bit like Will you go on to a theme song as well in that, or everybody just has the same music in the background?
Not for my category, no.
No.
So the category I did was called bikini. So it's kind of a smaller category. It's not the what mental image people are going to straight away. It's a lot smaller.
Okay, so I didn't know that. So just for people that don't know, so that you have different weights, is that how it works? A bikini.
Different. For men, it's different weights. For women, it's just different categories, and it's a visual look, so that we don't have to stick to a specific weight at
Right.
all. So it depends on what every sort of federation is slightly different. So the general is bikini, which is very slim with muscle.
Yeah.
Then there's wellness, which is think Amazonian legs, but
Right.
still slim on top. So it's very sexy.
Right. Okay.
And then it kind of it goes bigger and bigger until the classic bodybuilder,
Yeah.
female bodybuilder, what most people will immediately
Right.
think when they think
Okay.
a
Well,
bodybuilder.
I say Amazonian sounds my category. I could definitely do that. So it's like
Amazonian. It's sexy, isn't it? Everyone thinks Wonder Woman, yes.
yes, that's what we want. Yes, yeah. Oh, that's
Yeah.
so. Okay, so that's that. That's another side to you I didn't know. So that's just again. There's not enough I can't even pigeonhole you. There's just not enough. So, and then slowly the burlesque has developed, and so there was your first show, which was thrown right into the deep end. So 4,000 in front of 4,000 people. What would you say? How do you keep at the moment the act fresh? How do you update it?
I come from a dancer's background, so I've been dancing for quite a long time anyway. So
Right.
I've always been regularly inspired by music, and for me it's always music first. So I'll hear a piece of music and it'll develop, and sometimes I'll I'll obsess over a piece of music, and I can sometimes obsess over this music for 6 months, and then it doesn't develop into anything. Sometimes I get really far into it, and I'll have the choreography down to a T, and then go, no, it's not going to work. And I kind of build from there. And I think it's because I come from a dancer's background.
And so you say who you dancer's background. So do you who dances in your family? Where does it come from?
Just myself. I just I actually have 4 girls. I have 4 daughters.
Right.
And so when my eldest was about 2, she was 2.5, and I had my second, and I decided that she really needed to do something that was not around the baby. She needed to do something that was just for her. Yeah. So I enrolled her in baby ballet and tap and everything, and the pink cardigan came on and leotard, and off she went. And on her about 4th lesson, there was a mum's jazzercise leaflet in the waiting room. And I thought, I've just had a baby. I could do with losing a couple of pounds. So I enrolled myself. And then a few months down the line, I was on the stage doing this ridiculous routine as a cowgirl.
Right.
Which you don't need to know about. It was horrific. And then it just developed from there. I got as our family grew, and I ended up with more and more daughters. Yeah. We got more and more dancers into the school, and we just I got more involved with the teachers, and then I kind of just joined up as a student myself, and I learned more and more sort of techniques and styles as time went on. But now it's progressed in that I can use them skills into burlesque, because I was always in the mums class.
Right. So
and then I kind of went from the mums class to the students class.
Right.
Which was a really weird transition. So I wasn't in the mums group, and I wasn't in the student group. I was the one that was in the middle.
And you was and what were the mums that were all? Were there some people that were sort of elevating to the top and getting really good at it? Was there a standard there, or was everybody just trying to get fit, just lose a few pounds?
In the mums group, it was very much, this is just for fun. It's just to keep fit. It's something away from the kids. Sure. Obviously, in the student group, it was much more about we might be going to university with this. This is our career starting. Right. So it was a very odd place to be. And then I was in the middle, I don't know. I just really like this. Yeah. The mums group didn't quite scratch that itch that I wanted. Yeah. We had some people in their 70s and 80s, that were still coming along and still fantastic dancers, but we had to case. And I was at the time I was in my 20s, and I was like, but I can do more than this. Yeah. So I brought myself into the student class as well with the teenagers, which was just bizarre. So it was tough, but it served a good purpose now for my burlesque.
Because it gave you a discipline in dance. I take it that you learned these different styles, which served the purpose later on.
Pretty much, yeah.
And this is 4 daughters, and you're doing the bodybuilding, you're doing the burlesque as well. You've got the alternative fashion. How do you get all this? Your whole week must just be. I'm so lucky to get you on this podcast.
So my day will start at about 5 a.m. And that's gym time.
Right.
So 5 a.m. and then I go to the gym. And then I'm usually back for about 7:30, which is everyone's out. Then I make sure Sergeant Major around the house, make sure everyone's up and breakfast and out for school. My eldest is usually out by this point because she's quite good. Okay. Make sure that everyone's out to school. And then whilst they're all out to school in the day, then I tend to, then I can be a bit more sort of housewifey, and I look after the house and stuff. And then I actually do a lot of the alternative fashion stuff from home. Right. So then during the daytime, I'll do a lot of that planning and organising. And that's when I'll do my routines and I'll practice on my burlesque stuff. And so that's where my daytime stuff comes in. And then obviously I perform in the evening, or if I'm lucky.
Yes, yeah. So carry on, sorry.
Yeah, and then sometimes weekends generally taken up by, the evenings are generally taken up by performing, and sometimes I have to work away as well, depending on how far away a show is. But yeah.
And also, and I'll trail it at the beginning as well, and I've just forgotten to say, so do tell us where people listening as well, they want to get onto an Instagram or Facebook. So what's your Instagram account?
So everything is Arielle Firecracker,
right?
Which is it's Arielle like the mermaid with an extra L and an E.
Lovely. So it's Arielle Firecracker, and then you're on its Instagram, website, and you've got you got a website as well, haven't you?
I have.
I was reading that, and then you're on Facebook. So yeah, do go and absolutely stunning pictures. The outfits are incredible, and you're absolutely stunning. And I love the outfits, all the different varieties you have.
I'm so lucky with my outfits because I have two people very close to me who look after me with my outfits. So I have a lady in Liverpool called Christine Edson, who makes an awful lot of my things, and I have a special secret weapon who doesn't have a business, but she helps me a lot, and she's a burlesque performer as well, called Cat Noir, who just she makes my infamous red dress, which you'll see on my social media.
Yeah.
She makes that, and she was also my mentor as well.
Right. So she a mentor as in getting you into burlesque, is that right?
If it wasn't for Cat, I wouldn't have. Basically, for my first 9 months of burlesque, I was kind of, excuse the expression, but I was throwing shit at walls and seeing what sticks. I had no experience of burlesque. I'd never been to a show. I was basically just trying stuff out for my dance experience, and it wasn't always working.
Yeah.
And then after that 9 months, I had a horrific show where a lot of things went wrong, and I really hated this performance. It's actually gone down quite infamous. I've got a lot of fans who still talk about this performance. They love it.
So sorry, I'm going to have to ask, but what happened? What?
Oh, so much. I think I must have had about 7 costume malfunctions. I had like a bikini top on and like shells. It was a mermaidy thing.
Right.
And then I had like about 3 necklaces on, and I undid this ribbon at the front of these shells, and the ribbons were supposed to just kind of come off gently, and the shells were gonna off my back. That didn't happen. What happened is I'd tied everything to the necklaces, so instead of these shells just going down my back, they just hang there like a pair of ball sacks, just like planking on my back. And I was like, oh my god, the shells aren't falling.
Oh no.
So I couldn't then turn around to take my skirt off in this very elegant manner that I was supposed to, because I had these shells dangling. And so I had to run behind a curtain and do sexy leg behind with the curtain, like, look at the sexy leg.
Oh, I see. Right, so you're sticking your
whilst
leg
I was
out.
frantically trying to untangle all of this mess and launching necklaces and shells and all kinds from behind this curtain. So that was one of the things that went on. And then something else went wrong, and without actually showing you what happened, it just doesn't work.
It was just...
And then I tried to do a glitter pour, and the first bit of glitter came out of the watering can. So that it's like, look at this sexy water falling over me. And what happened is this first lot of water came out of the spout and hit my very sweaty, frantic chest.
Right.
And it was just like chest planting water. It wasn't sexy.
It was. And so just to paint the picture slightly, so this is a watering can that's full of water, but with glitter mixed in it.
Just glitter.
Just glitter, right? So
it just went
right, okay,
onto my chest and didn't go anywhere. There was no trickling.
Right.
So that was fun. But what I didn't account for, which was the finale, you can kind of call it, was the top of the watering can that all the glitter then spewed out of into my really open mouth.
Oh no.
And I choked really, really badly and violently on stage. And I was vomiting glitter for a good few days afterwards. But people thought it was great. They thought it was all planned. And I was like, this was not planned. This was supposed to be sexy.
Still, so people were coming up to you and saying that was brilliant, and not even going, what the fuck went wrong?
Chased me down the street telling me how great it was. No. And I was like, mate, leave me alone. I'm about to just like, I need to go and buy a cheeseburger, and I need to get a glass of wine and curl up in a duvet.
Yeah.
Bless him. He still comes to all my shows though, so I can't fault him. So heads up, Alex.
That's good. He's committed.
He is.
Okay, so that, and again, I've been chatting to loads of performers, and they say, "Oh, well, I made this mistake, but no one noticed." But that's incredible. People were still cheering you, and then going, "That is absolutely how she managed to swallow all that glitter is just incredible." And
how did she time it so well? I couldn't have planned it if I tried. But Kat was there in the audience that day, so Kat was already performed with me, and I was like, oh, I don't know if I'm going to do it again, and I was unsure for a bit, and then the story goes a bit tragic for a bit, but don't worry. So then that was in the October, and in the new year I found out I was pregnant.
Right.
And then in the March, we actually miscarried.
Okay.
So I was a bit like, do you know what? I'm kind of done. I'm kind of done with burlesque. I'll give it a go. You know, it didn't work. It's not a problem. And Kat went, you're coming to Millie Dollar's class. And Millie Dollar is a burlesque performer. She's been burlesquing for about 12 years. And she has workshops in Liverpool. So she really encouraged me to come to Millie Dollar's classes. I was like, I'm not sure, you know, I've tried it. It's not working. And she went, no, you have to come. You have to come.
Yeah.
It's like, do you know what? I can't afford it. At this time, I was doing the Alternative Fashion Fest stuff as a volunteer. I was like, but I have no career. I have no income. I can't justify it. No, I'm sorry. Thank you. And she went, no, you're coming. I was like, fine, I'll go. And so I went. And then a few months later, I got a request to do another performance. And I was like, oh, okay. So I went and did this performance, and I got fantastic reviews. And they got asked to do another. And so within the space of, and that was only last summer. So this was sort of last June. And so between last June and now, so just over a year ago, my career has gone from, I'm not sure if I'm going to even try and do a local club for free to, I'll be performing internationally this year a few times.
Really?
So,
well, that's incredible. And what a journey. And where are you performing internationally? Just tell us about that.
I'll be in Prague. I'm not sure if I'm allowed. They haven't announced it yet, so I'm not sure if I'm allowed to. I will be in Prague.
Okay. So we'll keep it under wraps. I'll wait till you give me the nod. But that's an incredible sort of again.
Yeah.
And this Kath was like, no, you're doing this, and she obviously saw something in you, and when
she does, and she always says it. But then as well, because of the $1 million classes, and because the community is really supportive.
Yeah.
So it wasn't just a case of like Kat making me go into the classes, but then it was Millie going, oh, really try this, and then give me some corrective feedback and go, oh, try it this way instead. And then the girls in my classes who are like, oh my God, try this and try this, and then going to shows, and then people giving me really, really good constructive feedback has really, really sort of like pushed my career forward.
Yeah, that's it. And also, and this is part you've got burlesque and you've got the fire artist stuff, which and by the way, I'm just online looking at the red dress, and it's kind of I hope it's the right one. It's like very Marilyn Monroe, that it's just the top pass with a fishtail effect at the bottom.
It's so classic, and it's one of my favorites to wear in performing in. And Kat made it for me, and we made it literally like snugly to fit me. So we kind of messed around with a few designs, and then this is what we settled on. Very simple but very elegant.
Yeah,
and
very classic. Yeah,
and it comes off in like 2 seconds as well.
And I suppose with burlesque, that's what you want. So, and also, and again, let's go into this because you're also a snake charmer as well, and so you bring snakes into the act. So, and we were just talking earlier, and it was interesting because I said I really don't like snakes, and you were like, neither do I, and then you just told me about how slowly, I think your husband, who was the so tell me, because you met your husband via a snake forum, is that right? And
so we
tell us about that.
We were both snake keepers. So years and years ago, one of my eldest daughters was quite adamant we were getting a snake because my ex-husband at the time, serial bride, but it's another story, insisted that we couldn't have any fairy animals because he was quite allergic, and my daughter at the time had a lot of chest problems, and we weren't sure if it was fair or not. So I was like, well, what about snake then? So we looked into it, and I started to keep snakes, and only a small collection. I think I had about 4 or 5 at the time. So I had a couple of corn snakes, and I had a boa, and we were all like really, really happy together.
And I'll just stop you there. So you had a couple of corn, very casually, 2 corn snakes and a boa. So you had a boa constrictor, is that right?
Yes.
Okay. So just for people that don't know and who'll be listening, so corn snakes are just, again, is that a very regular one that's sold?
Or corn snakes are very they're very common, and they're very easy to keep. They are also a constrictor snake, but they're very they're like some people call them noodles. They're very sort of long, and they're very slim.
Right. Okay. And these are all non-venomous. These are non-poisonous.
Non-venomous. Congratulations on using the correct term, venomous and not poisonous.
Oh, right. Okay. Well, what's the difference?
Poison is something you eat. So think food poisoning. So you will swallow something and it's poison, and it will mess your insides up.
Right.
Venom is if you get bitten by something.
Ah, right. Okay.
So you correct hair. Obviously, I do a lot of snake walkabouts and stuff with my snakes, and people do very often say, "Is this poisonous?" I don't know. Don't swallow it though.
Yeah, right. Okay.
That's
So,
just me being a bit of a horse.
sorry.
Yeah. So we met via a snake forum because I had a small collection and he had some snakes anyway. At the time, we were both in relationships and we didn't really we just knew of each other. And then later down the line, when we were both single, we accidentally met at a snake convention.
Right.
As you do.
As you do.
As you do.
And where was this snake convention? Whereabouts was it?
Ooh, I think it might have been Kempton. So it was down south.
And it's just a big hall with lots of people with different snakes for sale, and you can just look around at different varieties and species.
It's like Comic-Con but with snakes, yeah.
Right.
Pretty much. Comic-Con but with snakes.
Right.
Lots of stalls, lots of snakes, and you'll get all kinds of crazy and wonderful things there. And all kinds of colours. Any colour you can imagine, there'll be a snake that colour, promise.
Really?
Yeah, it really is. It's incredible. There will be something that even the most feared person will go, that's actually really beautiful. So we met there, and when we eventually moved in together, he brought his collection with him, which was quite substantial.
Yes, she was saying that you had about 4 or 5.
I think just going from a very small collection of the snakes that I knew very well to quite a big collection of snakes that I didn't know, and he had some very big snakes. I think that started to plant that seed of doubt.
Right, and how many did he bring in? He was about 100, you said.
I don't know. No, I think it was about 80 at the time.
Right. Okay.
We've condensed it a little bit to about. At a quick sort of scan across the room, I think I'm looking at about 50.
Right. So for people, there's 50 snakes in your kitchen at the moment as you look around. Bedroom.
I'm not sure that makes it worse or better.
You keep them in the bedroom, and they're locked in, not airtight containers, but obviously
they're in individual vivs. Yeah, we have a complete wall converted.
Oh my lord! So they move around and just. But obviously you've been around them for years, so you're quite relaxed by this. So it's like
with some of them. There's some tubs that I wouldn't dare open. I did open one of the tubs the other day to take her to an event, and she just jumped out at me and she was like, "Where's my food? I'm gonna eat your face." And I was like, "Okay, you can stay."
So and you were saying about there was a particular blood python that your husband had brought.
There was a blood python that didn't like me. He really didn't like. Well, actually, no, he was all right with me. I just didn't like him. He was very scared. He was about a 6-foot black slug with orange eyes he was eye level with me as I go to bed. Right. So as I walk past the tank going to bed, he just like stare at me.
Yeah.
And it freaked me out. And that was one of the points where I actually got to a point where anytime Andy got the snakes out, even though that some of these snakes I knew since well before I knew him, I suddenly got this very irrational, because it was irrational because none of them had bitten, fear of them. And then I had a couple that did bite. And whenever they did, I was like, that's fine. It's literally no worse than a paper cut.
So so some snakes do bite. So
some snakes do bite, yeah.
But it's not not like there's blood everywhere. It's a nip. It's not as bad as people think.
A nip, yeah. Like people will look at a hamster and go, "Oh my god, that's so cute." That will bite you worse than any of my snakes would. Obviously, you've got ridiculously big snakes, which if they do bite, that's serious damage. But most snakes will flight before they will fight. Most snakes will retreat. Snakes aren't interested in fighting or biting.
Yeah.
They would rather hide under a little tub. So they only ever bite if they're seriously like feeling for that.
Sure. Yeah. And to tell and obviously say to everybody, you and Andy are professional to a point where you handle this all the time. You know what you're doing. But
you've got to see my contract. It's like 4 pages long.
Really?
And I'm just like, if my snakes aren't happy, I'm walking out. If my snakes don't get this, like pink sparkling water, I'm leaving.
Right. Okay.
Sorry. I want to make sure that the animals are always happy. So if the animals aren't happy, I do.
Yeah.
And I do feel a bit neurotic when I send my snake contract out to people, but it's because these are pets and the animals that I love, and because I think people also sometimes I do get messages of concern for the snakes, and I'm like, I appreciate it, but these are pets that sleep in our bedroom.
Yes.
That are pets first, and we don't actually. for as much as I use the term snake charming, I don't like it because it means that it implies that I train them, and I don't. And just I've got some that are happy to do it and some that won't.
So can you, and just, oh my, so many questions. So just back to the blood python, because he broke through his cabinet or whatever to get at you. You were saying
that wasn't the blood python. That was a different one.
Oh, it was a different
one.
The
blood python was always fine. It was a different one, a boa called Fluffy.
Right.
And one night his glass came through that he'd I don't know if he deliberately broke through it or if he'd pushed against it and it fell out. But I went out I kind of woke up to the noise of the glass hitting the floor. Luckily it didn't shatter. So I was like, oh my God, what's this? And I picked up the glass, and next thing his face was there and he was just striking at my face. And I was like, Andy, Fluffy's attacking me. So it's always an adventure in my house. So Andy having to wrangle Fluffy back into his tank.
And how big is Fluffy?
Fluffy was about 6 foot at the time.
Right, 6 foot and what is the split between the sexes? Are they mainly male or female snakes?
Oh, that's a good question. I would say we probably have more females than males. I think.
And do they? And I take it you've got to keep them apart, and you don't want them to breed, or I take it they'll just attack each other. Are they quite territorial?
We always keep them separate. They're not too territorial, to be fair. Certain breeds ours are all okay. We don't house them together more because the males will pester the females.
Right. Okay.
We don't currently breed. We have in the past.
Right.
We don't currently at the moment. But it was hobbyist breeding, so it's a whole other 4-hour conversation, the subgenetics of snakes. But it was for our own personal things. So we get crazy colour snakes out of 2 snakes that are different colours. So it's
really. Listen, hey, I'm back for another episode.
The science is just unbelievable. We used to do it just to see what combinations we get, which is why we ended up with so many.
Right, okay. I'm definitely. There's a whole snake episode here, right? So, and which one is you? Because I'm looking at a picture now I can see the red dress, and then over on the other side of the website. Say again.
That will be Dita. So Dita is the most common snake you'll see me hold.
Right.
So she's the brownish snake.
That's it. And she's
so she very often is wrapped around my waist and then comes up to my neck. So she's my pro.
And you were saying about you can't train snakes. Can you train snakes, or are they ultimately like cats? You think you've got them trained?
Very like cats. They're very like cats. So there's some snakes that will naturally be. So Dita is the brown snake that most people will see in my pictures. So Dita is about 5 foot. She's a royal python, and she is amazing. So I can put her in any scenario and she's fine. Occasionally she will kind of tell me that she's not happy.
Yeah.
And she does it. They don't hiss like people think. They huff more like a bunny rabbit. Like
really?
it's more like that. So she'll kind of do that to me, like I've had enough now.
Right.
So she's my old faithful, and I can take her anywhere.
So she's good with performance. She's kind of so when you have her on stage, she just kind of knows what to do. Yeah, she'll just sort of like she just does
what she wants, and I work around her.
Yeah, right.
So I don't train them. Like she's just naturally fine with it, and she's naturally fine with walkabouts. And out of all of the 50 in this room, there's her and 2 others I'd potentially take. And if all of them 3 are out of action, it doesn't happen. Yeah. I wouldn't even dream of taking the others.
Oh, really? So she's a very good. She's pro in that way. She knows what she's doing.
Yeah, she's just fine with it. So I don't train them. They just what I'll do is I'll start with them with smaller venues. So if I've got one that I think, let's see if this one will be okay with it, I'll take them to a smaller venue and do something. So I'll do a performance with them rather than a walkabout. Which walkabout is it's quite literal. You literally walk about the audience. So it's a kind of like a, hi, welcome to our event tonight. Look at my snake.
So will you be like in a burlesque dress or outfit with the snake? Is that
Pretty much, yeah. Sometimes you'll see me with a big feather headdress, which is a nightmare when you're doing snake charming, because they like to hide in feathers. They think feathers are so much fun.
Fun, right? Okay.
So it's constant. The audience loves it.
Right,
it's a nightmare for me.
And just to ask as well, in the performance, if you've got the snake, what do you walk on with the snake, or do you sort of halfway through the performance get out of a bag, or how does that work?
So my first one, the Trust in Me, the Scarlett Johansson one that inspired me to bring the snakes out, it was very much trust in me, snake. And then I would select a victim, usually pre-selected, to hold the snake. I would never pick out on someone who would. I would always make sure it's someone that had been briefed prior, because I would hate to bring someone out that was scared.
Yes.
And they would hold the snake, and they would be my, in commas, victim. And then I would kind of dance around them.
Right.
I know in my very first performance, when I did that first act, I nearly killed Alex Reid, who was married to Jordan.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
So I nearly killed him on my very first Trust in Me act, because he was my victim.
Right.
And I hadn't had time to brief him because he was late turning up to our event.
Yeah.
To brief him and don't let her wrap around your neck.
Right.
And I turned round. By this point, just pasties and a tiny, tiny G-string. Turned round, and she completely wrapped around his neck.
Oh, really?
And I'm 5'3". He's about 6'4". And I had no heels on. So very nakedly trying to unravel the snake from around his neck.
Oh, and she had started to tighten?
She just kind of thought this was comfy. He was just a big warm tree.
So that's interesting. So at this point, she's obviously not trying to go for him and kill as prey. It's just, to her, what she does in the wild is wrap round a tree, and that's all she was doing.
That's what, just this is a big warm tree. And I looked, and he was like, this is a bit tight. And I was like, that's tight, isn't it, babe? Let's not get all these cameras catching my snake killing you.
Right.
Let's take that back. That's been my only.
And how do you get her off? How do you get her to release? Do you just sort of coax her your way?
I coil backwards. So if you kind of think of it as a spring.
Yeah.
And her head being the sort of the end of it, I kind of just go backwards.
Right.
And she kind of just goes, okay.
She won't fight you. She'll just go, like, fine.
No,
I'm going over here now.
She's not. It's not food to her. So if it was food, it'd be a different matter.
Okay.
On a person, she just goes, "Oh, we going this way? Okay, no problem."
Okay, right.
But that was a learning curve. So I kind of evolved from that, and I realized that once you come out with the snake, you've kind of peaked instantly.
Yes. Because do you find that it's like I've spent thousands on this dress, and all you can do is look at this bloody snake, but they're absolutely
pretty much. I'm her tree.
Right.
I'm her very warm tree in a very expensive costume, and no one cares about what I'm doing. They're just like, snake. So now I keep her in a basket.
Right. Okay.
Because I'm really mean, and I'm a little bit narcissistical, clearly. So I keep her in a basket. And then I do my thing, and then I go, ta-da! Look, snake. You think I was fooling, but no, real snake.
That's a real
ta-da!
And so is she also, because you're warm-blooded and they're cold-blooded, that's why snakes are clinging to you, because she's using your body heat. Is that right? Okay, right.
Yeah.
Never thought. Okay, I can see the picture now. It's got like a bra with a lovely, gorgeous suspender top belt thing, which is just that's another thing we'll talk about, all your clothes on another episode, because you have just fantastic costume. So and it looks brilliant. It looks absolutely absolutely brilliant. So
she wears me well.
She does well. You wear each other well.
We're a bit of a team, and what I do love is, because we are a bit of there was a bit of a debate earlier this week on Facebook with a fellow performer friend about animals in performance.
Yeah.
And I kind of felt like I had to kind of speak up and go, well, devil's advocate here. My animals always kind of come first, and I kind of use them as a rule of thumb. And they were like, "Oh no, we're not talking about you, because you two clearly are like a duo." I was like, "Oh, thank you. That kind of means a lot." But yeah, she calls the shots. Like, people kind of think that I make her do something. It's like, if she doesn't want to do it, it ain't happening.
You won't
it's
take
like,
her. Okay.
Yeah. So she's the boss, really.
She is. And does Andy have a favourite? Has he got a particular? What's the biggest snake you've got actually in your house?
Well, we have another boa. That's about 7 foot,
Right.
and we have. I've got to tell you some of the names of my snakes. So we
Yes,
have David
please.
Hisselhoff.
David Hasselhoff, right?
No. David Hisselhoff.
Ah, clever.
Yep. Dieter von Hiss is the classic that you'll have seen.
Yeah.
We have William Snakespeare, and we have my personal favorite, Julius Squeezer. So
Brilliant.
Julius Squeezer is currently about 4 foot, but he will be about 12 to 15 foot when he's fully grown. So, the infamous pictures of Britney Spears with the big white snake.
Yeah.
He's one of them.
He's an albino.
He's an albino Burmese.
Wow.
Yes. So he's currently about 4 or 5 foot, but he will be about sort of 12 to 15 foot fully grown.
And where do you get? And obviously you buy them from a what do you call it? I don't know. A trader.
He was from an actual shop,
Right.
But we researched him quite a lot, and I found a shop that was selling him, and I knew of friends in the area that keep snakes, so I did my research, and I was like, "Are these guys all right?"
Yeah.
Like, yeah, the sound. So I was like, okay, that's fine. So yeah, we do our research, and we sometimes go for independent breeders, sometimes we go for shops, and it depends.
And roughly, what price are you talking for a pedigree? I take it that's a.
Ooh, it depends what you're looking at, really. So males generally are a lot cheaper, and females tend to be a bit more expensive. And very similar in the way of dogs when it comes to breeding.
So you say, sorry, males are cheaper and females are more expensive.
Males are cheaper and usually more expensive. So say a normal Royal Python male from a baby will be cheaper for you.
Yeah.
You're looking at 30 quid.
Oh, right, okay. Oh, it's not bad.
Yeah. People think because they're an exotic pet they're super expensive, and they're really not. They're a lot cheaper to keep than a dog or a cat because they only feed once to twice a week. So they're actually quite cheap to keep, and they can be quite cheap to purchase as well, depending on what you go for.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's varied from 20 quid to a normal Royal Python to £900 for a female, whatever. It really does depend.
Well, it does depend. And you feed them very quickly. What sort of food are you giving them? Is it?
I feed them frozen that I defrost because I do not agree with live feeding.
Right. Okay.
I just think you stick a live thing in a box with an animal, it's going to fight for its life, and it's just. It doesn't need to happen. We don't hunt down our animals. We buy a frozen chicken in Iceland or Tesco.
Right.
So it's no different, really.
They will eat a whole chicken, basically.
The big guy will when he's fully grown.
Yeah.
But these guys, at the moment, we don't feed anything bigger than a frozen rat. But they are all like private. They're all. I wouldn't. If I found a dead rat in the street, I wouldn't go, "Oh, that's a free deal for one of mine." They're from a reputable place that are clean.
Of course, yeah. And listen, and also you do the fire eating as well. And again, there's a picture. Well, there's two types, and there's fire breathing and fire eating, which I'm learning as I go. Speaking to all you wonderful performers. So, do you do both? Are you
I do bodybuilding and I do eating, and I do fans. So for me, in terms of fire, I feel I'm very much I'm quite new.
Right.
So I do it a bit. I'm not like Jinx Monster and the Monster Circ girls are. They are like pinnacle. They're fantastic guys. And they were very much an inspiration for me. And my first set of training was done by a company called Stay Beautiful Performances.
Yeah.
So Kirsten, who runs that, taught me how to do fans. And then I also am good friends with a guy called Johnny Strange.
Right.
Who travels all over the world, and he's in the Guinness Book of Records for all kinds of crazy stunts and chainsaws in his mouth, and I don't even like to watch what he does. And he taught me some vapor tricks and things like that as well.
Okay.
So yeah, I don't do fire breathing as yet. I'll see.
You'll
But
see.
yeah, I do eating and I do vapor tricks and I do fans.
And what's fans? I've not heard of.
Fans are the big fans. So if you look on my social media, you'll see a picture of me with big Medusa horns
Right.
and me holding the a fan is like a fan, but it's made of fire.
Oh, right. Okay. Right.
So it's got I think in that picture I've got 5 wicks on each
Right.
fan.
Oh, I see. Right. Okay. And
So instead of in my head, I thought cleverly, instead of burlesque fans with these big feathers, it will be fire.
right. This is it.
Yeah.
But you obviously you keep that separate from the snakes because it would.
There is a performer in the States who does a fire performance with fire. I personally think you're just asking for more trouble than you need.
Yeah. Yeah.
Snakes are unpredictable at the best of times, and I wouldn't like to be around fire if I didn't know what I was doing.
Yeah.
It's just, oh,
But-
yeah, I don't do the two at the same time. I won't even do it on the same night
Yeah.
because all them fumes around you, the snakes are super, super sensitive to any
Right,
smells.
Of course.
So just
yeah.
that paraffin being on your skin,
Yeah.
if I suddenly then did paraffin
Yeah.
or Coleman's fuel, depends on what you're using,
Yeah.
and then picked up a snake, they'll look at me and go, no.
Yeah. Yeah, well, quite, yes. They would be, yes.
Yeah.
And you are doing what now to me?
Yeah,
So,
put me down, woman. I'm not going up there when you smell like that. Ain't happening.
so listen, thank you ever so much. There's just a real roller coaster of your journey, and where can we see you next? Where are you performing sort of in the next few months towards the end of the year? Because this will go out, but people will be listening for months and months, hopefully. So
Well, I'm in a lot of places. Tomorrow I'm in Manchester and Albert Schloss,
right.
and then
Oh,
I
right.
will be. Yeah, I perform there quite a lot. That's a really cool venue, and
That
there's
is.
always there's lots and lots of really fun acts on there. So I'll be there tomorrow night. Where am I recently? Where am I going to be? I'm going to be in Edinburgh Fringe for the first
Oh,
week.
right. Okay. Brilliant.
I'm at a couple of different venues for that, so it's best to check my social media about where exactly I'm going to be.
Sure. Well, I know Vivian Lindsay is a brilliant drag actor.
Oh, I love Viv.
Viv, she was in the Drag Idol
She was,
final,
semi-finals.
so and
Yeah.
I made it to the wild card final, so but
Oh,
I
fantastic.
didn't get through. But Vivian was brilliant. She got through to the final. So and I saw her the other
Gosh,
week.
as well.
So I will, and she's always down at Albert Schloss. So I'd be meaning to. So
Yes.
well, perhaps I will get down there and probably say hello to you. Are you bringing the snakes, or is it non-snake performance?
Well, tomorrow night it is snakes.
Oh, right, okay.
So I will be there tomorrow night with the snakes. But yeah, I met Vivian at my first time at Albert Schloss, and we wanted to leave really early, but they promised us pizza. So we
Right.
stayed really late,
Okay.
and I dropped her home.
Oh,
and
right.
as she closed the door, my wing mirror fell off.
Oh, right, okay.
So there was a whole roller coaster with Vivian,
That-
but she's great. She's a great performer.
Ah, wonderful singer, wonderful singer. Listen, thank you ever so much, Arielle. And it was, and I think, yeah, you definitely. And oh my lord, we've 50 minutes. This has been a roller coaster of an interview podcast show. So-
I like so.
No, this has absolutely been brilliant. Absolutely, I'm sure this will, and I look forward to chatting again. But one last question I have to ask, because you are my very first recommended guest, GRG. I think I'll tag it as that at the moment. So, who do you think I should have on the show next, or who do you think I should interview for a future episode?
I've got to say, it's a comedy circus duo called there's Eve L
Eve
and
L.
Baldini.
Right. Okay.
They are a father-daughter duo act, and so they're very circusy. So they do things like fire, they do stilts, they do machete juggling, whips, chainsaws, all kinds of crazy things. But there's a really, really cool dynamic because they're a father-daughter duo, so they're proper like circus sideshow traveling.
Yeah, that's a tradition,
to the-
isn't it? Yeah.
Yeah, to the corners of the earth, and they've got lots and lots of years of experience, and they're really cool.
That's brilliant. Well, so it's Eve L and Baldini.
Yes.
Brilliant. I will go and track them down. Arielle Firecracker, thank you very much for coming on today's show.
For having me.
You've been listening to Funny Peculiar. Tune in next week. More great guests.